So for this video I'm going to show how I made this crochet baby hat, and instead of just straightforward treble crochet I've done it into back loop treble crochet. So that creates this little seam detail that runs all the way around the hat, and I've done it in a spiral pattern so that you don't get the seam running anywhere down the back. Especially if you're going to make it for a baby, you don't want any lumps and bumps in the hat that you can avoid, because it's going to make it more comfortable for sensitive skin. So for this video you will need your wool, you'll need your hook, and you can use stitch markers if they help you, and you'll also need a darning needle for weaving in your ends when you're finished, and you want some scissors. To get started you want to make a circle. So first you're going to do your slip knot and then tighten the wool up to the hook, and then you want to chain 3 or 4 depending on the thickness of your wool, and then slip stitch back into your first stitch. And as you do this, wrap the yarn over like that so that you can crochet over that tail end, just so you can tighten everything at the end. Now, because I'm doing this in a spiral, instead of chaining 3 like I'd normally do, I'm going to go straight into making my stitch. So first of all I'm going to do a double crochet, and then once you've done that, if you want to, you can mark that with your stitch marker. And then next I'm going to do a half treble crochet, and then next I'm going to do a treble crochet, and then the rest of the way around I'm going to do treble crochets. So I want 12 stitches in total, so I'm going to do another 9 here because I've already done 3 stitches altogether. So once you get to the end, you can check that you've got your 12 stitches that you wanted. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then instead of slip stitching into the stitches you would normally do, what you're going to do is you're just going to work it straight round, because that's why you started off with a smaller stitch and got bigger. So it'll create a spiral. This prevents it from having like a seam going down the back of the hat. So basically what I'm going to do, because I want the seam to be ridging round the hat, instead of working through both loops like I would normally do, I'm going to do back loop crochet. So I'm only going to go into the back of this stitch rather than into both of them. And I have done a video on this with thicker yarn and a bigger hook, just to help people if they're not familiar with this stitch. And I will link that in the description. So you want to do a treble crochet stitch into there, and then you can mark your place again with your stitch marker. Because obviously you're going in a spiral, sometimes it's not as obvious where your row starts as it would be if you were doing slip stitches into it. So as you would do on a normal circle, you will then just do double stitches into each one. So you're going to do 2 treble crochets into each stitch, but only working into the back loop each time. So once you get back to your stitch marker, you know that you've completed your row, and for this second row you should have 24 treble crochets. So you can take your stitch marker out, and then you can do your third row, which again is going to be increases, but as with a normal circle, this time you're going to do alternate with 1 stitch and then with 2 stitches. So this first stitch I've just done 1 treble crochet in, and this one I'm going to do 2 into. And then again for the next you want to do 1 treble crochet and then for the one after you want to do 2 treble crochets, and you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until you should get to the end of your row and have 36 stitches. So coming back to the stitch marker, now you've completed your 3rd row, and as you can see, I think it's starting to show the pattern there. So this spiral works from the centre and just goes round and round, and there's no ugly seam going down the side of the hat. So you're just going to continue this, so you make it whatever size you want it to be, because it depends on how big the head is basically of whoever you're making it for. I am doing it as a baby hat, but you could do this as a toddler, preen, teenager, even an adult hat. It really is up to you, and obviously depending on the thickness of the wool might depend on how many stitches you're going to want overall. So for this one I'm going to add a 4th row of increases, so I'm taking out the stitch marker and then I'm going to work another treble crochet into the 1st stitch, and then reattach the stitch marker, and then again 1 treble crochet into the next stitch, and then it's on the next one that I'm going to add 2 treble crochets. And again, remember, always keep it in the back loop if you're wanting the seam to run across in the centre like that. So once you've done your first 4, you're back to doing 1, another 1, and then 2. So it's going to be on every 3rd stitch that you're going to do 2 treble crochets into it, and you're going to repeat this pattern again until you get back round to the beginning of your row. So once again, get into your stitch marker, you've completed the end of your 4th row. So then you want to do increases onto your 5th row. So following on with the pattern that you've already probably noticed, you're going to do 1 into your 1st stitch, then reattach your stitch marker if you're using one, and then you're going to do 1 into that one, 1 into that one, and then 2 into that one. So this time it's on the 4th stitch that you're adding your 2 treble crochets into the same stitch. So the way it works really is that you're on row 5, so the 5th stitch will always be the doubled stitch. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5 will always go into the same stitch. This is where it does come in handy to know your times tables. So following with that, your 10th stitch will then be the doubled stitch, if you see what I mean. So you're going to go 6, 7, 8, and then 9, and you know that 10 has to go into the same stitch because it's the 5th row. So you're going to repeat that pattern again until you get round to your stitch marker again, and this time you should have 60 stitches. So once you've got to the end of your 6th row, you can either add more increases to make it go out a bit further, or you can stop adding increases and make the hat then curve round. So I'm going to stop adding increases here because this hat's going to be big enough for who I'm making it for. But if you need to add increases, you can do that for another row or however many. So once you've stopped doing your increases, what you're going to do is you're going to do your treble crochet into your 1st stitch again, and I keep using the stitch marker all the way around for this because I like to have this bit where the seam starts. I want the end of the hat to go into that bit, so that makes it more or less level, so it's not quite as noticeable that obviously you're going to have to start grading down when you end on your last row. So for this one, you're going to again be doing your back loop crochet, but you're just not going to be adding any increases this time. So it's just going to be 1 treble crochet all the way around. So once you get to the end of your row, your first row without increases, you can just do the same again. So you're just going to be going into the back loop of your first stitch and then just replacing your stitch marker, if you use them obviously, and then again just treble crochets all the way around without any doubling up. So once you've done as many rows as you want without increases, you want to keep 2 stitches from the end of this row, and then you're going to do the opposite of what you did right at the beginning. So instead of doing a treble crochet into this stitch, you're going to do a half treble crochet, and then for your next stitch you're just going to do a double crochet. And then you're going to take out your stitch marker, and then I'm going to work into both sides of the stitch for this one instead of doing a back loop stitch, and then I'm just going to slip stitch that in. So then what I want to do is I just want to add an edge in just to cover up the fact that that's a little bit uneven there. So instead of cutting off the wool, I just pull the whole ball of wool through just so I don't have to cut it and then reattach it. So I'm going to do it as though it's fastened off there, and then I'm going to go into the next stitch and I'm just going to pull the yarn through to create a loop. So then what you can do edging however you want for this one. So I'm going to do a sort of scalloped edging. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the third stitch. So you've got this one, and then that one, and I'm going to do a treble crochet, and then I'm going to do another one into the same stitch, and third, and then a fourth, and then go in 1, 2, I'm going to go into this stitch and I'm just going to slip stitch in, and I'm going to repeat that pattern again. So I'm going to go into the third, and I'm going to do 4 treble crochet into that stitch, and then moving it on again to the third stitch, I'm going to slip stitch into there, and then I'm going to go on again and just do my 4 treble crochet into the next stitch, and I'm going to repeat this until I get back to the beginning. So once you've got back to the beginning of your row, you can slip stitch into the beginning, and then you've finished your hat. So you just want to cut your wool and fasten off. So now you can just tighten the bit of yarn in the centre if you've crocheted over it, and then just snip that off, and then you want to take your darning needle and thread that through, and then you can just go on the inside of the hat and just weave the tail ends in a bit. Once you're satisfied that you've hidden enough of that, you can just snip the end off, and then you have your completed baby hat. As you can see, that's brought up the ridging detail on the hat, and it just makes something that looks a little bit different from just your average hat. So I hope this video was helpful to somebody, and thank you for watching.